Now, as Linda mentioned in her report, the humanitarian group Doctors Without Borders has evacuated more than 40 members of its staff from the Dadaab area owing to the rising insecurity. Now, to talk about this evacuation from Dadaab, I'm now joined by Charles Gaudry. He's MSF's head of mission in Kenya. That's Doctors Without Borders. Thank you very much for coming on this evening, Charles.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening. Now, you've been in Dadaab for over 20 years, Doctors Without Borders, and now you've moved away 42 of your staff, citing security concerns. And we've had instances where this government has actually called Dadaab a nursery for Al-Shabaab. Is this latest move of your staff in some way related to that? Would you agree that Dadaab is a hotbed for Al-Shabaab activities?
Well, that wouldn't be for us to comment at all. And so our move is not relating to that. It is really relating to the series of events and incidents that have really taken place in the past week and 10 days. These are not very new events. I mean, there's been a strong attack in Garissa University. There's been attacks in Mandera County in December. And these are just a few of, well, a lot of things that are happening around. Now, these events I'm talking about of the past week have come very much closer to the Dadaab camps. And then there's been other very explicit threats to particular groups of people. That's very clear.
Are you saying the threats are coming from outside the camp and not within the camp?
No, they're not coming from within the camps. I mean, these are things that are seen in the media. It's in the public domain, you know, and as well, the incidents that have taken place are very explicit. So these are the things that have pushed us to take this this decision for now, just to make sure that we're not exposing first a part of our staff to that particular risk. So we've had to take staff that are part of that group out of there to make sure that they are safe. But then it's also about the whole program. We can't afford to have an incident into that place. It would put in jeopardy the whole program, our whole ability to provide aid to the refugees who deeply need it. So I won't comment on, you know, whether the camps are a place where armed groups are taking ground or whatever. I mean, when we see in our health facilities are refugees who need health services and support. Very often the speech around refugees is about security. We try to bring it back to what it is. These are people who have fled a conflict situation and who need humanitarian aid.
But you would agree that the government is in an interesting position. On one hand, they have to think about security, and on the other hand, they do have to think about human rights, and they do have to think about the rights of these refugees. So with that situation in mind, how do they balance this? Because it's obvious they want to make sure Kenyans are secure, and if they feel that Al-Shabaab does have some kind of hold inside the camp, can you really blame them for wanting to get a hold of that situation?
Well, we're not here to blame anyone, actually. We're simply a humanitarian organization whom to work in any area where conflict is taking place needs to demonstrate neutrality and impartiality. We're not here to say this one is doing wrong, this one is doing that. We're sometimes just expressing concern. We've been expressing concern over the idea of sending all the refugees back forcibly to Somalia. And our concern is humanitarian. A number of other concerns could be also there. So it's not to comment about is the government, you know, taking their responsibility or not. So we're in no position to comment on such a thing.
Well, you have been quoted as saying that, and you've just repeated this, forcibly returning refugees to a war-torn country is not a solution. So the question is, what is the solution?
Well, I wouldn't have the solution. And I don't think it's a solution. We don't think it's a solution of the Kenyan government to find alone. I mean, and clearly there are lots of partners and the international community that's involved in that. Whether the international community is sufficiently investing to find adequate, durable solutions that could be implemented or that could be offered to these refugees. I mean, obviously. When we see the conditions in which these people live there in the camps, these are not acceptable conditions. Some people have been there for over 20 years. No one wants to live like that for 20 years. So we're not saying the camps have to stay whatever, and that has to be for eternity. Other solutions have to be found, but pushing forcibly people back is not the one.
Well, we understand now that 2 out of 4 of your facilities are closed. Clearly, this must have quite an impact on the refugees living in the area. What is the situation in the camps like right now?
The situation in the camps is, I mean, it hasn't. Well, over the last few days, things have been quite tense. We've had to close health posts because of taking out the staff. We know that is not a unique situation to us. A number of restrictions have been there due to the situation in the past days. But out of that, I mean, these are living conditions that are very, very scarce.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us this evening. Charles Gaudry, he is the head of mission at Doctors Without Borders. You're watching KTN Prime.